Good evening. I am Charles Penny, and I am honored to be the city manager of Statesboro, Georgia. I'm also honored to be able to welcome you to this great facility, the Emma Kelly Theater at the Avery Center for the Arts. I want to thank you for joining us tonight as Mayor Jonathan McCollar delivers the 2024 State of the City address. We're going to jump right into this. And so what we'd like to do right now, if you're able, we would like to ask everyone to stand for the presentation of the colors by the Statesboro High School Junior ROTC. And after they present the colors, we will have the presentation of the national anthem. So please remain standing. You may be seated. Let's give our Junior ROTC a round of applause. We can always talk about how bad our young people are doing, but we had this great honor guard here, all female, and so we appreciate them. At this time, I would like to introduce to you Miss Chloe Jones. She's a senior at Statesboro High School, and she serves as a junior mayor of the Statesboro Youth Council. We'd like to invite her to the podium to introduce our mayor.
Good evening. My name is Chloe Jones, and I have the honor of standing before you as the current junior mayor of the Statesboro Youth Council. I am a senior at Statesboro High School and hope to pursue a degree in biochemistry beginning this fall. During my time as a member of the Statesboro Youth Council, we have been committed to initiatives that empower individuals and strengthen community bonds. We have hosted various family resource days in collaboration with the Statesboro Village Builders and plan to begin a mentorship program this year as a way to create supportive networks for youth within our community. Through our shared volunteer efforts, we strive to inspire positive growth and development for the future generations within our community. One specific example of this was our opportunity to volunteer at the Royal Family Kids Camp for youth who were in foster care or who had been recently adopted. Interacting with campers and witnessing their joy as they participated in new activities left an indelible mark on my heart. It served to reinforce the belief that every child deserves the opportunity to experience joy and personal growth regardless of their circumstances. As a council, this experience served to inspire us to continue advocating for marginalized youth and renewed our appreciation for the power of community and belonging. None of this would have been possible without our mayor, Jonathan McCollar, and his continued efforts to support and empower the youth in our community through programs such as the Statesboro Youth Council, Leading by Reading, and Youth Connect. We're truly grateful for his ongoing dedication to our cause. At this time, it is my pleasure to introduce to you Statesboro's Mayor, Jonathan McCollar.
Good evening. It's always wonderful to see young people at work, and we got a great group of young people that's doing some amazing things within our community. This evening, I want to start out by thanking our junior mayor for the wonderful introduction that she gave, and I want to thank the Youth Council for the work that they're doing. If you come to many of the events that's within our community, you'll see them busy at work. I want to give a round of applause for our Statesboro High Junior ROTC. Let's give them a round of applause. It's always great to see young people doing great things within our community because they are our future leaders. I want to bring greetings to you tonight on behalf of the city of Statesboro and to all of those that's in attendance tonight as well as those that's watching from the comforts of their home. I recognize that we all have busy schedules. For you to take the time out to be a part of this event tonight, it means a lot for us. We recognize that your dedication to moving this community has not just been done through participation, it's been done through your love and support of others within this community. Statesboro, I am proud to submit to you tonight that the state of our city is stronger than it has ever been, and the future is brighter than it's ever been. Six years ago and 2 months in this year, I was blessed to be given the honor of serving as the 21st mayor of my beloved hometown. Since being sworn in as mayor, our city, state, and nation has experienced many positive changes that have thrusted us closer to being a more perfect city and a more perfect union. While simultaneously in acts of serendipity, we have also been faced with challenges that have questioned our resolve to live in a safe, healthy, and inclusive city and nation. While last year this time we shared with you that over the course of the first 5 years of this administration, we had seen a 79% reduction in violent crime in our city. Though that moment was to be celebrated with such amazing accomplishment, we also understood the fragility of that moment. Tonight, I'm here to report that while we have remained down overall as it relates to violent crime, for the past 6 years, we did see an uptick last year in 3 of the 4 tracked categories as it relates to violent crime. In the mayor and council's unshakable resolve to ensure that our citizens live in a safe and healthy community, we acted quickly to use best practices and not knee-jerk decisions in our efforts to address 2 major needs as it related to keeping our community safe. When the leadership of our police department relayed the need for us to incorporate technology in our fight against crime in this city, we listened. Through continued investments and growth of our future system and the incorporation of a flock camera system, our officers are now better equipped to respond and solve criminal activity as it presents itself within our community. In fact, it is through this system that our law enforcement officers have been able to track down and arrest individuals that were suspected to be involved in various criminal activities. In even one case, we were able to bring justice to a grieving family that had lost a young one within our community. It is also through the utilization of this type of technology that allows our policing agency to gather the information it needs to succinctly target the bad actors in our community while straying away from the bad practice of paratrooping policing of decades past. Statesboro, rest assured that the city of Statesboro and every facet of the organization is dedicated to making sure that every citizen that lives in neighborhoods in our city are safe and our city continues to thrive. Our commitment to ensuring the safety of our citizenry was best exemplified in our historic investment into our public safety employees, support staff, and our city staff this past December. As a result of this bold investment, we are seeing an increase in the number of highly qualified applicants for both our police and fire departments. This investment has launched the city of Statesboro to the forefront of top salaries, not just for our region, but throughout the state and against all facets of law enforcement. Additionally, this strategic investment positions the city to address the national shortage of public safety officers while shoring up our retention efforts to keep great people on our team. So if you're an experienced public safety employee or someone looking to get into the field, look no further than Statesboro, Georgia. We are looking for talented people with a heart to serve to become a part of our organization. Be assured that the city of Statesboro is going to take the necessary steps to ensure that every citizen that calls our city home has a safe neighborhood to live in. However, let us be reminded that the safety and security of our city is all of our responsibility. Even with the incorporation of new technologies and increased salaries, there is no substitute for a citizenry that is willing to take the necessary steps to secure our city. Criminal activity in any form is a threat to the well-being of our neighborhoods, our children, our people, and our city as a whole. So if you see something, say something. It is all of our responsibility as a community to send a resounding and unified message to criminals that Statesboro will not be a safe haven for you to commit crimes against the people that we call neighbors. I believe that we all recognize that the work towards progress is a continuous and a true labor of love. We are going to continue to work to make our city the greatest place to live, work, and play for every man, woman, and child. Then we must have the moral fortitude to take on one of the toughest fights we will ever be involved in. And that is our fight against poverty. In many aspects, poverty is a cancer that eats away at the stability of any community and the progress of a people. When it comes to poverty, there is no room for negotiation or compromise. I can recall vividly being on the campaign trail in 2017 and having a local reporter ask, what did I believe was the greatest threat to the city of Statesboro? Without a second thought, I immediately responded with a single word: poverty. At that time, the city of Statesboro had a poverty rate that was estimated to be at 53%. For many of us, When we think about poverty, we think about large urban centers or extremely rural areas of the nation, but we never think about a city like ours, when in fact our very own city's poverty rate was nearly 30% higher excuse me, than many of those cities that we would have thought of. When we decided to run for office, we ran with the intent to take on difficult issues. So in the spirit of Statesboro, we prepared ourselves to fight this fight. On day one, this administration made fighting poverty its #1 priority. We knew that this fight was not going to be easy. However, we understood wholeheartedly that this fight was going to be worth it, as many of the ills that our city faced and continues to face were and are rooted in the existence of what sociologists describe as systemic generational poverty. This means that much of the poverty that we see today is multi-generational and the result of systemic economic conditions that have disenfranchised too many of our citizens from being able to benefit from the traditional forms of upward economic mobility. This evening, I am proud to announce that since the first day of this administration, the city of Statesboro has seen a nearly 30% reduction in its poverty rate. What this means for us is that more of our neighbors are finding their way up that economic ladder. However, the fight is still not over. Our city's poverty rate is still considered to be one of the highest in the state. We still have too many families in our city struggling to meet basic needs. So it is with this understanding that one child going to bed hungry was one child too many for our community. So to meet these families where they were, the city of Statesboro partnered with Feed the Borough in 2020 to distribute food supplies to those families that needed assistance. Since the start of this partnership, Feed the Borough has distributed more than 2 million boxes of groceries to families in Statesboro and surrounding communities. Through this effort, the city of Statesboro dedicated itself further to addressing the issue of food scarcity by partnering with the food bank and the Bullitt County Board of Commissioners to build a $2 million food bank facility that is nearing the end of its construction. This facility and its team will work to address the needs of those that are dealing with the ills of food scarcity on a day-to-day basis. In this fight against poverty, the greatest ally that we have is the hope for a better tomorrow. Without hope, communities perish, as it is hard to be hopeful when stomachs are inside of your home and empty. Thus, understanding that one of the fastest ways out of poverty is to be a community that attracts well-paying jobs, we continued our investment into the infrastructure that we see today. But we also began to craft policies that encourage business growth via our tax allocation districts, a newly implemented unified development code, and increased opportunities for female and minority-owned businesses. As of this moment, we currently have more than $100 million in commercial development projects and more than 3,400 new housing units in various stages of development that will provide new business opportunities and new home ownership opportunities. In addition to this growth, We are now part of one of the fastest growing economic regions in the nation. There are a projected 23,000 jobs to be associated with the location of the Hyundai plant and several of its supporting companies in our region. To date, we have 5 manufacturing and/or green energy companies that have relocated to Bullock County, which is estimated to generate some 1,700 brand-new jobs that are with starting salaries in the range of $50,000 or more. So if you're seeking new jobs that pay better wages, that best support you and your family, this is your opportunity to do just that. If you're listening to this message this evening and you have failed to earn your high school diploma, yet you want to be able to take advantage of these opportunities, this is the time for you to reach out to Ogeechee Technical College to earn your GED and inquire about any additional trainings that will better prepare you for these opportunities. If you have earned your GED or your high school diploma, now is the time for you to take advantage of one of our prestigious institutions of higher learning that we have right here inside of our community. Do not let these opportunities pass you by because you did not go online to get information about opportunities that Ogeechee Tech, Georgia Southern, and East Georgia has to offer you. For many families in our community, the salaries from these jobs can be life-altering and mechanisms to aid in the fight to end generational poverty. In fact, these jobs will be life-altering for many families across the nation. Last year, while I was in Kansas City at a National League of Cities conference, I had a very interesting conversation with an Uber driver. In this conversation, the gentleman shared with me that he was looking to move his mother out of the area to a place that was a little warmer. He went on to state that he was in the car manufacturing business and had heard about a Hyundai plant opening near Savannah. And it was his thinking that he would bring his mother to this area. Statesboro, we have always known that this region is one of the best regions to live, work, and play. However, this area is no longer a secret. With this unprecedented economic growth, we are one of the fastest growing areas in the country. Just a few years ago, our fair city was ranked the 37th largest city in the state of Georgia. A mere 3 years later, we are now the 28th largest city in the state of Georgia with an expected growth in our population. Statesboro, I am proud to report we are ready for the growth. Over the years, we have continued to invest into infrastructure that we will need to sustain the growth in a responsible fashion. However, in the midst of this growth, we must not forget about the neighborhoods that house the citizens that are responsible for building the city that we love. As we see new growth and infrastructure developing on our main thoroughfares, we must be intentional about making sure that we maintain our responsibility to invest into our older neighborhoods. The city of Statesboro, in keeping with its promise not to leave any part of our city behind, is making historic investments into the upgrades of our historic neighborhoods via our neighborhood revitalization efforts. In these areas in our city, we are seeing the resurfacing of roads, the revitalization of parks, the restoration of homes, and the installations of sidewalks. We are also installing the infrastructure to aid in the mitigation of flooding and connecting older subdivisions to the city's water and sewer. In an effort to continue our efforts to attract more affordable housing and make the best use of existing infrastructure, we're utilizing our Unified Development Code as a catalyst to see more development of infill housing in our historic neighborhoods. To show our commitment to this effort, the city of Statesboro designated $11 million in ARPA funding to address the needs of the most vulnerable parts of our city. It is our hope that through these efforts, we will be able to extend the lives of existing homes in our more established neighborhoods. Though this is a time to celebrate the progress that we have made, it is also a time for us to understand that we are at the precipice of this work. Statesboro, I would like to tell you that one day you're going to arise and every home has been repaired, every pothole filled, and every blemish restored, but that is simply not the case. The journey that we are undertaking will be one that we are going to continue to make adequate investments into our neighborhoods that occupy our west and north sides. This will be one that we count not in months, but in years. It is one that we will move one home, one street, one pothole at a time. This will be a journey that will test our dedication and resolve to work to make sure that every child in our community is coming home to a house that we all will find pleasurable to lay down. Statesboro, I submit to you that as we work to restore the neighborhoods that house the souls that work to build the city that we love, it is equally important to make sure that the downtown that launched this regional economic hub receive its share of intentional investment. In recent years, we've heard and talked a lot about the Blue Mile, the creek on the Blue Mile in our downtown. In a not so distant past, we had empty storefronts in our downtown with the few dilapidated commercial properties that were scattered throughout our central business district. Now, when you journey through our downtown, you see buses ferrying our elders to doctor's appointments and to the grocery store. We see former empty storefronts with thriving businesses, and with the completion of the first stage of the Blue Mile, we can envision the grandeur of a beautiful entrance into our central business district. We can also see the vision of local business owners coming into fruition via the amazing West District that transformed our old warehouse into a bustling business district that is now home to the amazing and elegant Fox Hall. And now, in our downtown, amidst the business of the day, we're seeing the renovation of the Georgia Southern Big Center, the installation of an art park, and with a short walk down Willie McTell Trail, you will see the beautiful restoration of an old warehouse that is now home to our beloved farmers market. Statesboro, our downtown, is on the move. We are breathing life into a downtown that was being strangled by archaic business-killing policies that strip business owners of their ability to be innovative and meet the needs of our time while attracting more people into our central business district. Last year, in an effort to show our commitment to spurring the business in our downtown, the city of Statesboro launched its inaugural Downtown Live concert series. This concert series provided 4 free concerts for our citizens and neighbors to enjoy in our beautiful downtown area. The success of these concerts was evidenced in the thousands of attendees and the need to extend this year's Downtown Live concert series from 4 to 8. Statesboro, much of the work that we're doing today is not for us. It is for those future generations that will come after us. In times past, when African warriors met each other along their journey, they greeted each other in the words of Kasarian Ingra. And what this translates to is very simple. And how are the children? What the warriors of that time knew, and what I believe today, is that a community that fails to protect and invest into its children is a community that is destined to fail. Statesboro, in recent years, we have made great strides in building much-needed social infrastructure for our youth. The city of Statesboro is coming up on its 4th year of our Youth Connect program that provides a 5-week job training opportunity for participating youth in our city. Additionally, we have launched our Youth Council program that prepares young people to be leaders of tomorrow. And just this past January, the city of Statesboro received the Georgia Municipal Association's Visionary City Award of the Year for establishing village builders. Village Builders is an initiative that works to meet young people and their families where they are by providing access to resources in their neighborhoods. Through Village Builders, we have worked collaboratively with organizations across the city to meet the needs of the youth in our community. However, there is so much more work to be done. Statesboro, we are losing too many of our young men to a school-to-prison pipeline that is fueled by a failed academic progress, the ability to obtain needed resources, and an underdeveloped support services network within our community. As daunting as this work may be, I believe that if there was ever a community that can meet the challenges of saving its young people, it is ours. There's a Greek proverb that reads, a society grows great when old men and women plant trees whose shade they know they shall never sit. Statesboro, it is our time to plant the shade trees. Now is the time that we must plant the seeds of for our youth that will focus the efforts to provide opportunities for our children that's in the most vulnerable conditions. It is our turn to become the giants in which future generations will stand upon as they reach to unimaginable heights. Statesboro, this is our chapter in history. This is our opportunity to build a future that's brighter than our past. Statesboro, as our children stand upon our shoulders and they ask, what did those giants do before we came? Let it be known that we were a city and a generation that chose to take on the hard things, to do the hard work. We were a generation that remained steadfast in our belief that our future is much brighter than our past. Thank you.
You will hear more from the mayor in a moment, but at this time, we would like to call to the stage Ms. Regina Eason. She will now offer a rendition of the Ray Charles classic, Georgia on My Mind.
Georgia, Georgia, the whole day through, just an old sweet song keeps Georgia on my mind. Georgia, Georgia, a song of you comes as sweet and clear as moonlight through the pines. Other arms reach out to me. Other eyes smile tenderly. Still in peaceful dreams I see the road leads back to you. Georgia, oh Georgia, no peace I find, just an old sweet song keeps Georgia on my mind. Arms reach out to me. Other eyes smile tenderly. Still in peaceful dreams I see the road leads back to you. Georgia, Georgia, no peace I find, just an old sweet song keeps Georgia on my mind. Oh, just an old sweet song keeps Georgia on my mind.
Thank you, Miss Eason. Beautiful song. Georgia's on our mind. At this time, we want to move to a question and answer session. And so at this time, I'd like to invite Mayor McCollar, and he will be joined on the stage by Grice Connect Managing Editor Whitney Lavoie. Whitney, come on up. And Georgia Southern University Student Government President Blake Robinson for a question and answer session.
Good evening, everybody. Now, y'all be easy on me.
We're both feverishly taking notes.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Good
Ready as I'm
evening.
gonna be.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Whitney Lavoie. I am the managing editor at Grice Connect, which is a hyperlocal news source here for Statesboro and Bullitt County. We like to say that we are the news you need when you need it, but something else that's really important to us is better connecting our community, and I hope that's what we're going to do here tonight. So thank you for having me, Mayor.
Thank you.
And I'm Blake Robinson. I'm the president of the Student Government Association at Georgia Southern University. I'm also a political science major and a criminal justice major, and I am thankfully in my senior year here. So
Let's give them a round of applause for that. Right?
yeah.
You got to send everybody invitations to graduation.
Well, I mean, y'all are gonna tell by the traffic.
Yeah, we'll know, right?
Yeah.
So we're happy to be here tonight with Mayor McCollar to have an open conversation about Statesboro and what's to come. Just sort of a more casual, open conversational version of what you talked about a lot in your address. Okay. So we may cover some of the same things with our questions, but just a chance for us to kind of go deeper on a few of those.
I'm getting nervous.
So looking back on the past year, you said the city is stronger, the future is brighter. What would you consider the city's biggest success story from the past year?
To me, I think it's kind of glaring. In 2018, January 2018, the city of Statesboro had a poverty rate of 53%. Here we are, February 2024. That 53, depending on what stat you look at, is now reduced to 37 or either 41. That's unheard of. And for our community to come together and to make the investments to help provide ladders of upward mobility economically, that is absolutely astounding. So that, to me, is the greatest success that I think that we have as a community. And what I want to be clear is that all of this is not one person. This is a collaboration between the city of Statesboro, its citizenry, the Bullitt County Board of Commissioners, our educational system, Georgia Southern University, many folks across the community, our development authority. We are in a very fortunate space right now. And the type of progress that we've had addressing this issue through smart, non-knee-jerk decisions has been instrumental in us getting to the space that we're in now. So if I had to say anything, to be able to cut our poverty rate by almost 30%, that's the biggest accolade that I can say is the one thing that we're going to hang our hat on. Yeah.
That's great. So kind of along that same line, it's no secret, of course, like you mentioned in your address, that there's a lot of growth coming to the region.
Yes.
And our state. So I have just one statistic here that I wanted to kind of put out here for this question as context. So the Governor's Office of Planning and Budget, in their latest population statistics, they said that Bullitt County would grow to a population of around 92,000 by 2026, which is when the next mayoral term begins.
Yes.
So with thousands of new jobs and people moving to this region, how are you and the city working to ensure that Statesboro is going to grow sustainably?
One of the biggest things that you need, two of the things that you need is jobs and housing. Those are the two big things that you need in order to address that. Right now, I mentioned in the State of the City address that in our pipeline, we have 3,400 homes in our pipeline to be built over the next few years. This is exciting because this is giving a place for those new folks to live. But more than that, we've laid in the infrastructure to be able to support the growth of our city, whether it's via the residential side as far as annexation, or whether it is via supporting a continued economic attraction of larger companies. And so this is something that we've been working on for years. And again, I want to pay tribute to those that sat in this seat and other seats that came before us, to give them their honor for seeing some of the vision that was coming down the pipeline. In many instances, the best decision that we made was to continue some of the practices that was already established. And we tweaked what needed to be tweaked as those opportunities presented themselves. But I do believe the fact that we have the housing and the jobs in the pipeline, I think that helps us tremendously. If I had to add another tier to that, I would also say we have an outstanding higher educational system and a great public school system as well. And so when you look at those matters, I think that also positions us to be in a great position to continue to grow at a sustainable rate that's allowing new people to call Statesboro home. Yeah.
And that transitions right into our next question perfectly. With that growth, some residents of Statesboro are concerned about the affordability of housing.
Absolutely.
And also preserving our historic neighborhoods.
Yes.
And you mentioned the neighborhood revitalization efforts in your address. So can you just expand a little on the city's strategy to responsibly expand affordable housing options while also preserving our neighborhoods, and maybe why that's so important to you?
Well, I think there's certain truths that we have to be very clear on, right? The definition of affordable housing has changed. And I can look at the neighborhood that I live in right now. When I first moved into that neighborhood, the valuation of the properties that was in our area was in and around $120,000, $140,000, right? My former neighbor sold his home probably 2 to 3 years ago. And that $120,000, $30,000, $40,000 home sold for $300,000. Okay, we are in a new reality, and I think many people that's in elected positions do not want to say that. But I think it's important for the people to understand that what we considered to be affordable 5 years ago is not the same as what affordability is today. And so that's why it was so important for us to be a community that can attract higher paying jobs. Because historically, the wages in this area had been suppressed. And that's what led to the systemic generational poverty. We had most of the people in the city that live in poverty are individuals that get up and go to work every single day. Yet they do not make enough money to take care of their needs at home. And by attracting these higher paying jobs, it gives them a ladder to continue to grow economically. So in this space, we need to be encouraging those individuals to prepare themselves, to put themselves in a position to take advantage of the opportunities that's presented themselves. But, and there's another piece that we want to continue with that too. On the policy side of the house, the city of Statesboro, in conjunction with mayor and council, our staff, and a numerous number of community input sessions, we created a unified development code. The Unified Development Code allows us to utilize our older neighborhoods to build infill housing. This addresses home affordability. Additionally, through our incorporation into the Georgia Initiative for Community Housing Program, it positions us to be a community that individuals that's looking to build low-income homes for families or seniors, our community is at the top of that list because we are a part of that program. And that was something, and here's an interesting thing, here's an interesting fact. For us to get into that program, we barely passed that on a 3-2 vote. And because we were able to pass that, now we've launched ourselves into a great neighborhood revitalization program that's extending the lives of the homes that's inside of our older neighborhoods. So having the vision and forethought to understand what may seem small today can actually be the seed that grows into a tremendous amount of progress.
And so also to stick with affordable housing and something that's, I guess, has become one of your major themes right now in your administration is poverty and addressing it. So affordable housing and poverty, they go hand in hand.
Yes,
You know this.
absolutely.
So the latest census data estimates that as much as 37% of Statesboro's population currently lives in poverty.
Yes.
So what is the city doing to combat poverty? And I know you mentioned this in your speech, but I wanted to see if you could expound a little bit more upon it. What is the city doing to combat poverty and support its impoverished residents as well?
Well, I think the biggest thing that we're doing, and I'm going to tip my hat to individuals that's associated with the Village Builders Project. That's the newest thing, right? The vision with Village Builders is for us and those that work with that initiative. Dr. LaSara Mitchell, she's the person that heads it up on the staff side. But you got individuals like Christina Patterson, Lakeisha Hill, Tangi Reese Johnson, and other folks that's associated with our youth commission. And so what they're doing is that they're taking these resources and taking them inside of the neighborhoods that our young people are at. And as the young people come, their families are coming. So what we're doing now is removing barriers to access to information, because much of the time, individuals that's suffering from poverty, they're not just suffering from the lack of opportunity, they're also suffering from the lack of information. And so being deliberate about getting that information out there. The next thing is of course, putting ourselves in a position to attract higher paying jobs. That's one of the biggest things. If you can't find a job that pays more, you can only make what is available. And so over the next few years, we're seeing an estimated 23,000 jobs that's going to be throughout this region that's associated with the coming of the Hyundai Meta Plan. And this Meta Plan is bringing these subsidiary organizations that's planting themselves in communities like Bullock County and Effingham and Bryan County. And what it's allowing us to do is to have the opportunity to have good paying jobs right inside of our community. And what these good paying jobs does is that with the higher wages, sociologists have determined that the more education plus the higher wages equals your ability to be able to create wealth. What our hope is that as these jobs come in, our folks will be in a position to purchase their own homes. That's why it's so important to begin to build these things out now. Because what we want them to do is as they get themselves established financially, now they can go out and purchase those homes. But what we have to do as a city is make sure that we have the housing that's associated with the income status. So we are in need of housing at all tiers. That means affordable housing for people at a lower income wage, affordable housing for individuals that at a higher, and then affordable housing for individuals that's at the highest end. So we need all three phases of that housing. And and purchasing a home, what we found is that is the fastest way to build wealth. And I want to use this as an example. From 1934 to 1962, the federal government had programs to encourage individuals to be able to purchase homes. This federal program excluded people of color. The city of Statesboro is a majority minority city. And what this means is that those type of policies which ostracize individuals from the ability to be able to build wealth, that has had generational trauma. And so what we're seeing now over the past 50 years is a group of people that's trying to rebuild that path back to building generational wealth. So what I have to get people to understand is that we are at the precipice of changing that economic dynamic within our community. The questions, the results that we're looking for, we're looking at these results 10, 15, 20 years down the line. That's why I said in my speech, this is a labor of love, because this is not going to be an easy journey, but it's going to be a needed journey.
All right, so switching gears a little bit, although still related to the growth that we're experiencing, I feel like that's just the theme, right? That's the theme of the night.
Yeah.
So you mentioned and focused on in your address the crime rates.
Yes.
So I want to talk a little bit more about that and how you've kind of focused on that technology. You mentioned the Fuchsia's cameras.
Yes.
So we know that the city has invested heavily in our public safety, but could you talk a little bit about how businesses and citizens can join with you in those efforts?
I think the easiest thing is in that one line. If you see something, say something. It is all of our responsibility to keep this city safe. And it doesn't matter what city you're in, whether you're in New York, whether you're in Statesboro, or you're in some small town in California. Every citizen has a responsibility to help keep their community safe. We do not get to be alleviated from that. And this is what this is what we have to be clear on, right? Crime in any shape, form, or fashion is a threat to the stability of our communities. And what I mean by that is that one crime kind of begets another crime, which begets another crime. And that's what we've seen in this community. Much of the time when we're looking at instances across our city, it was typically individuals that were associated with crime. Both actors were involved in criminal activity. And what I say to that is this: if we're going to keep our community safe, it has to be a clear understanding that we can't tolerate crime on no street, in no neighborhood in our city. Because what it does is it jeopardizes not just the integrity of our city, but the security of our children. That's what my greatest concern is. My greatest concern is that I want to make sure that every child has a safe place to play inside of this community. And I believe that after a certain age, you know right from wrong. And we have to make sure that we're concerned about our children. Right now, to me, this is a heartbreaking statistic. In 2023, the city of Statesboro had 4 homicides. That was up from the previous year of 3. This year, we've had 1 homicide. The last 5 homicides that we've had in this city were all young black males under the age of 20. The oldest victim was 39. Every other victim was 20 and below. These individuals are all individuals that's dropped out of our local high schools and our local middle schools. Until we become a community that understands that the city, the Board of Education, the county commissioners, Georgia Southern, Ogeechee Tech, all of us have to work together in a unified initiative to address our young people. Because when they are falling through the cracks of our public education system and our economic mobility systems, they are only going to go to one phase, and that's criminal activity. And sociologists understand this as there's only 3 stations that you can be in a capitalistic system. That's either you have a job or you own a business, you're on public assistance, or you're involved with criminal activity. Those are the 3 mechanisms of being able to generate income. And so until we recognize that all of these young people are our responsibility and we must work to provide resources and opportunities for them, then that's when we're going to be a community that's said that we're picking up the full mantle of taking on a very serious problem head on.
So you're talking about working together as a whole community, and I think that's an interesting segue into this next question I have for you. So in my time here attending Georgia Southern, I've been no stranger to City Hall, and I've been no stranger to the county annex.
Absolutely.
But I'm also no stranger to City Hall or my hometown county annex as well.
Yes.
Which is Valdosta, Georgia, for those of you who don't know. And it's similar to Statesboro in many ways. We're about twice the size, and we don't have a major Division I institution right next to us. But we still are partly a college town. We do have Wiregrass Technical College and Valdosta State University. But one of the things I noticed is that in my hometown, our city and county governments coexist very well. This relationship, I mean, it's proven very beneficial in many ways. And I mean, it's so beneficial, in fact, that our city hall and our county annex share a property.
Okay, good.
And so with that said, I wanted to ask, how are the city of Statesboro and Bullock County working to coexist to bring about the most beneficial outcomes for the citizens of both the city and the county?
And I'm glad you asking that question. I think the biggest misconception that our community has is that the city and the county don't get along. That's the biggest misconception, right? The county and the city, we work together on so many projects. So we're going to disagree on a couple of those projects. And those are the projects that tend to get the attention. Nobody said anything about the city and the county coming together to rebuild 2 parks at one time in this city. If we didn't work well together, how did we get that project done? You know, right now we're building a $2 million state-of-the-art food bank facility. That's a collaboration between the city and the county. And I think too often, you know, for the sake of conversation and coffee talk at our little breakfast clubs in the morning time, we have those where they're not getting along. Well, I don't know. Me and Roy has never had a terse word to each other. If anything, we telling too many jokes. But I think that because we have to work through very serious issues. I mean, when you're talking about developing a county and a city that's growing at this rate, and you have a room of highly intense people when it comes to this community, and we have different ideas of how things can work, yeah, we're going to have to take our time to work through things. But there has not been an issue, whether it was the 5 Mile Fire District, whether it was the rebuilding of our parks, that we did not manage to find a solution to. And I think that for many folks, they get on social media, they read these comments, and none of these people, I just want to be clear with you guys, when you're reading social media, none of those folks are in the room with us. And so how they know I'm totally befuddled. But we do have strong personalities, and that's why we're in the role. Because you got to think, you know, Roy said that he wanted to represent 80-some-odd thousand people. I stepped up and said I want to represent 33,000. And so in order to do that, you have to have a personality that's strong enough to be able to weather some of the toughest times. And so when we sit down and we work our way through negotiating some very difficult issues, I think that that's where the flags get thrown. But the truth of the matter is, I think Roy Thompson is an amazing person. I love what he does for this community with TMT Farms. I mean, how many people has that man and his family fed by supporting the food bank? You know, that is just I think they collect tons of food every year for that. And so when you got individuals with track records of working inside of this community, I think that that's what needs to hold up. And we have to be steadfast in that. But I'm quite sure tomorrow at some point, somebody's going to say they really hate each other. But you know, regardless of what, and this is not the first time that I've said this, right? Like you know, individuals have suggested that we go on retreats to be able to work out the differences, and I'm like, what differences? you know. So I'll say that. But at the end of the day, we have a good relationship. We get major projects done. But yeah, when it comes to major things, we're not able to sit down in just one session. We have to have multiple sessions where we work and churn these things out. Yeah, that's a great question, though.
Yeah, tell everybody to check the live stream.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
I want to go back for just a second and talk about youth, because I know that's something that's really important to you. Mm-hmm. In your book, People Over Politics, you really shared about the challenges of growing up as a young black male in our city.
Yes.
And when you became mayor, a lot of those same issues were still around for today's youth. But you have worked on the parks, the sidewalks, getting out in our community, and as you mentioned in your address, Village Builders.
Yes.
And that winning the GMA Visionary City Award. We at Grice Connect have had an amazing experience with our intern from the Youth Connect program. I was really proud to see his picture up on the wall.
That's right.
But it's just been really enlightening for us, and he's still working with us to this day. So could you talk a little bit more about how others can engage with you in this effort? I loved the proverb that you shared in your address. and building a future that's brighter than our past. So how can we make that an all of us kind of effort?
The biggest thing I can tell individuals is to start where you are, right? If you got young people in your household or inside of your circle, begin to invest into them. If you are an individual that's leading an organization, that organization needs to have a mentoring program in some shape, form, or fashion. If your organization does not have a mentoring program, then you are doing a disservice to the future of this community. And the reason why I say that is because of this. One of the things that I talk about in my book is the fact that, and when I talk to my mom, I tell my mom this all of the time, like you're the best mom that I could have had, because if I come home with crazy ideas, she'll never say you can't do it. And so that gave me confidence, right? But what was greater than that confidence was being able to be exposed to new and different ideas. Understanding that there are other things outside of the village that we grow up in that we can do to change lives. And one of the significant things that happened over the course of my life, I never thought about going to college and getting a higher education until I met two young ladies, Georgine Best and Ava Best. They were from Greenwood, Georgia, small town, but they both attended Georgia Southern University, and they both went to a friend of mine's church. That's how I was introduced to the idea of higher education. Now, granted, we came from a family that if I had asked my family to pay the tuition to go off to Albany State, I'm quite sure my family would have put something on it, but might not have been able to cover the entire cost, right? But I ran into Renata Newville Jallo, and she was a part of a TRIO program at Georgia Southern University. And it was through that TRIO program that I was able to navigate the financial aid process, going on college tours, and eventually getting accepted into Albany State. And that was a major piece for me being able to grow. And it was in that space that I was able to learn a lot about who I am as a person, and realize that you do have the capability to lead. One of the greatest things that we have to do with our children is to give them confidence. They must be able to believe in themselves. Allow them to make mistakes. Let them fall. Let them fail. They need that because that builds character. We cannot save them from everything. And the best thing that's ever occurred in my life is me failing. Because when you have confidence and you fall down, you get back up. And that's the thing that we have to do with our young people. And so for those individuals that's in leadership roles, whether it's an organization or an institution, your organization need to be investing into young people in this community, because we are losing so many of our young people. I just stated five homicides, all of them 20 and under. What happened to them? At what point did those young men lose hope? When did they lose hope? That's what we have to figure out. And what we have to do, and I'm going to say this, last year I told you politics suck, right? And so my disposition on that has not changed, okay? Right? But I am going to say this. We got to start, as people, as human beings, we got to start recognizing when people are not being honest with us. And they're working our fears for political gain. That's what they're doing. And it's common sense. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, Hispanic, Asian. It doesn't matter what God you serve. It doesn't matter who you choose to love. None of those things matter. At the end of the day, every citizen in this country wants to have a home that they can go to that's equality. They want to be able to put food on the table. They want to make sure their children are safe, and they want to make sure that they have a little nest egg that they can put away. There is no American that cannot agree that those are some foundational things. And what people do for political opportunity is use divisive measures, things that's none of our business, to divide us. And so we go out and we believe these lies that these politicians and these news correspondents are telling us, and we get worked up into our feelings, and we begin to look at each other as the enemy. We go to work, many of us go to work at Georgia Southern University. We'll sit there, we'll work on difficult projects, we'll celebrate when we're helping our children, and then we will go home and look at news that's telling you that your neighbor, your coworker, your teachers, all of these folks are now your enemy. If we can go out and cheer for the Blue Devils and the Eagles, and we can cheer on Portal and all of these other schools, if we can unite around that, why we can't unite around community? We got to stop being the pawns of individuals that's working our fears and emotions for political gain. When we said people over politics, what we meant is that we was going to tell you the truth, whether you like. Do you think I wanted to tell you that we had an uptick in crime? I didn't want to tell you that, but it's the truth. But we should be fired up to do our part to change this community. And that's what it's about. And so I don't care whether you Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, or whatever. We got to find fundamental truths and stand by those. And when we stand by those fundamental truths, we not only will be a better city, we'll be a better country.
Thank you, Mayor. So you touched on it a bit, and I think it's great how you kind of helping me segue into my questions here. Oh. So you touched on that. A lot of people in the Statesboro community work at or with Georgia Southern in some capacity. So with an institution like Georgia Southern in a small town like Statesboro, I've noticed that there is oftentimes like some pushback when it comes to student involvement in affairs of the city, and but I've noticed in my time knowing you and in my time here at Georgia Southern, I've noticed that your efforts have been to engage students with the greater Statesboro community. So what do you think the benefits are of engaging students in city affairs, and what do you think they might bring to the city itself as Statesboro continues to grow?
Well, when I look at Georgia Southern, and myself and my wife, we both work for Georgia Southern. Georgia Southern is a living, breathing think tank. That's what it is. We have innovative educators, highly talented young people, and we have to use those individuals to better our community. And you're absolutely right. Prior to this administration, and I can't speak directly about the administration before me, but historically, there has been we want those dollars, but not those voices. And what I can tell you is that I believe that our community would be much further along if we were using those voices along the way. One of the things that our young people bring to the table is that they are fearless, they are creative, and they will get out and do the work. And if we're not cultivating that to be able to move our city forward, then we are not taking advantage of this. And what I can tell you, as a part of our 2017 campaign, we would not be in this space if it was not for the students at Georgia Southern, okay? When we ran in 2013, that's the first time that we ran. We lost the mayoral election by 93 votes. That was a tough pill to swallow. The following year, what we realized was that when we're engaging more people at the grassroots in every facet, we have a huge opportunity to change. But when those young people at Georgia Southern said, we believe in what you guys are doing, and we're going to join that fight, They got out, they knocked on doors, they took people to the polls, they did all of these things. And let's just think what Statesboro would look like if we had not gotten the support of the young people in Statesboro. And what I'm going to identify are initiatives that's very unique to this administration and was not a part of conversation and or plans for the city. Investment into youth. The city of Statesboro had no plan of investing into young people before this administration. Neighborhood revitalization. The city of Statesboro had no plan to invest into neighborhood revitalization. Rebuilding parks. The city of Statesboro had no plan to rebuild parks. Public transportation. No plan for public transportation. Revamping ordinances to meet modern needs. That was not, all of these things are products because those young people said that we want to be a part of changing the direction of this community. And that's what is very essential. In the Bible, it teaches that a people without vision suffer. And without that vision, that's how we got to that 53%. And when we talked about being a city that's inclusive, that ruffled the feathers of a lot of people because they went to a very negative space when we talked about inclusion. But for us, inclusion was not just the right thing to do, it was economically sound. When you've got more people keeping their dollars inside of this city, that's more opportunity. And I'm going to tell you, when we passed in 2020, thanks to Paulette Shavers, Venus Mack, Councilwoman Sherry Barr, Councilmember Phil Boyum, and Councilmember John Riggs, we passed an equity package. And in that equity package, we laid out reserves specifically for female and minority-owned businesses. Why is this important? This is important because what this says is that the city has an expectation of 20% of its contractual services go to female and minority-owned businesses. Prior to this, minorities only received 9% of the contracts coming out. And what that meant was local businesses that could do the work were not getting the opportunities to do so. And the best example that I can give you of this working to our benefit is that when you go to these parks and y'all children they're out there playing, know that that was the first major project that we did under this. And look at what benefit that it's done not just for our community, but for the people of this community. And as we look at this poverty rate go down, and we've already discussed the hurdles that people of color had to face, look at how fortunate we've become. In leadership, I believe two things. You have to be bold, and you cannot lead a people that you love, that you don't love, because all of this is sacrifice. And we knew it was a risk, but it was the right thing to do. And when we passed the equity package, and it provided safeguards for vulnerable people within our community and economic opportunities for female and minority-owned businesses, we took a huge step forward into the 21st century. And the message that we sent resoundingly was that we were going to be a community that worked to improve the economic condition of all of its people intentionally.
So let's continue on that train a little bit. You talked about the innovation and the creativity that we have here in our community. So the Blue Mile,
yes,
the renovation of the Blue Mile, the Creek on the Blue Mile project. Those are keys to making our city attractive to newcomers and retaining those young people that
yes,
you talked about. And we've sort of already seen some of the dividends from those investments
yes,
coming through. But now we have thousands of new homes coming. Enrollment is up at Georgia Southern again.
It is.
And so, as you said earlier, the secret is out.
Yes.
Statesboro is a great place to live, work, and play. So what can you share with us about some of the exciting things to come? I personally was very excited to hear about the expansion of the Downtown Live concert series.
You excited?
But yeah, just so that's a little bit of a lighter subject, but it's important nonetheless.
Well, I think that, and I'll start with the concert series. That is something that's so simple, right? Statesboro, for those of you who may not know, the city of Statesboro has a very rich music history. This is something that we should have tapped into years ago. If you go to any of our churches, they sound like full-blown concerts in there, right? You could go to any of the nightlife in and around Georgia Southern's campus, and some of the concerts that's occurring in these facilities are absolutely amazing. And it's been like that for decades. I mean, we got the Blind Willie McTell Trail, right? And the biggest thing that I can say is that with things that's coming down the pipeline, is that we're going to continue to see the embracing of innovative, modern ideas that's going to help bring our city forward. And that concert series is just a step in that direction. And I will also say this: the city of Statesboro is also in a unique space that we have enough things in the pipeline that our focus really has to be developing those things that's in that pipeline until they're full fruition. And so that's really the biggest focus that we need to have over the next few years, while simultaneously preparing ourselves for what other opportunities that may present themselves.
But as we are talking about those exciting new things, it's important also to look back and reflect on our past, something that has been in the news here recently.
Yes.
So the Statesboro City Council and the One Borough Commission have been working with the Equal Justice Initiative.
Yes.
Over the past year, y'all have brought awareness to some of the darker moments in our city's history. Could you share with us a little bit about that effort?
This is what I try to get when you do this work. And for many of us, we do the work because we're born into the work, right? And I'm one of those people that's born into the work. And what the Equal Justice Institute is shedding light on is a criminal justice system that has been disproportionately unfair to people of color. And what we were able to do in our city was to place a marker for the 9 souls that lost their lives to lynching. And what our hope through this is for people to understand that the space that we are in today, legislative actions were taken for our people to be in the condition that we are today. And I said this the last time that we were at Georgia Southern, but I'm going to repeat it again. It was at Georgia Southern last year for the last State of the City. I'm going to repeat this again. This year I turned 50 years old. And that's a shocker for me. I'm like shook, like 50. I'm not 40 something, right? But I am a part of Generation X. And Generation X for America is the first generation of people of color to be born with all of their rights. Let that sink in. To be born with all of our rights. And so that means from the time that we were introduced to this country up until about 1968, our nation that we've loved, we've bled for, we've sacrificed for, had instituted laws to intentionally disenfranchise a very specific group of people. And if we don't have the courage to take the same steps within our institutions, within our governing bodies, to correct the wrongs of those policies, then we're going to continue to go in the same circle that we've been going for 150 years. It takes courage to do that. And this is important, especially in the space that we are in now. We are in a space that in our state legislature, right now, there are individuals that's pushing legislation to curtail what is being taught in our schools. okay? They have no interest in telling truth. They would rather tell mythology versus truth. In our state legislature right now, there is a bill that says, and Paulette, you sitting right there, I'm going to say agape. If agape was to bail out more than 3 individuals in the course of a year that were involved in the social justice movement, they can be faced with criminal charges. This is what's in our legislature right now. And I can understand if we were in a situation where every American from day one were given all of the rights, all of the privileges of everybody else. But that's not our history. Our history is of a nation that up until about 50 years ago was very deliberate about separating the rights of one group of people over another. And until we have leadership that has the moral fortitude and the courage to say that, we're going to continue to be in the same space. And that's what we need in this country. I'm so sick of politicians getting up and saying the same old sound bites, but they never want to tell the people the truth. And when the people ask the tough questions, they run from it. And what we have to do is that we have to embrace the truth of this nation, because in our founding documents, we are dreaming of a nation that is this shining city on this mount. And whenever you think about light, you think about purity. But there cannot be purity in a nation that's filled with lies. We have to be willing to tell not only ourselves, but the generation that comes behind us. We have to be extremely truthful with that. That's the only way that we're going to heal this nation. And so when we erected that marker right there in front of City Hall with an African-American mayor on the other side of the window, what we're saying is, yeah, this is what we've experienced, but this is what we can be. And that's what we have to do. And anyone, and I say this for every American. If you got another American telling you that another group of Americans don't have a right or should not be doing or trying to curtail the rights of other Americans, separate yourself from them. Because those are not Americans. And I want to say this. My undergrad is in history. And so when I look at happenings, they tend to be cyclical, right? There was another nation that was passing laws just like this. There was another nation that was banning books. There was another nation that was changing curriculum. There was another nation that was saying, not those people. That was Nazi Germany. And what I believe is that as an American, we can do a much better job than Nazi Germany can do when addressing the ills of this country. I believe that America has the people and the spirit to stand up and say, we are going to move forward. You go to Nazi Germany and the old relics that they have, and you see the modern Germany that they have. And in these spaces, they never let you forget the wrong that was done to these people. In this country, we have active politicians working to cover up a history that we all know too well. And that's what we have to change. Those people do not have the interests of this country. They are the people that Plato talks about in his Republic that are more interested in staying in power than they are in doing what's right for the people.
See, I don't know how I can follow that up with my next question. But I just wanted to kind of go back to higher education for a second. Mm-hmm. Of course, all my questions have something to do with Georgia Southern.
Go ahead. And rightly so.
But, Georgia Southern's growing. Mm-hmm. Statesboro's growing, yes. The region's growing, everybody knows everything's growing.
Yes.
So how do you see the city and the university working together to help grow Statesboro. Now, I want you to think of this from an administrative standpoint. So how do you see the university as an entity and not necessarily just from the student perspective? You talked about students, but I wanted to kind of hear your take on how you see the city of Statesboro as a government, and then the university as from an administrative standpoint.
I'm going to say this. Georgia Southern, when it comes to community involvement, when it comes to investing into working to make sure that not only the university, but the city and the county has a bright future, Georgia Southern has an excellent ambassador in Dr. Kyle Morero. I will say that. He is very involved in local work. And he is a person that's willing to put his efforts on the line for change. And this was exemplified in our partnership in 2 occasions. One partnership, if you come down South Main Street, we got Georgia Southern flags all the way down. That is done through a partnership with Georgia Southern to provide lighting along that sector. The other part of that is right now, on the south end of the city, on the south end of the campus, a whole new campus is developing, as well as a whole new business district. That is done collaboratively between Georgia Southern and the city of Statesboro. We worked to build out the necessary infrastructure in order for us to be able to start building out that area of the city. And we are now reaping the benefits of a newly established tax allocation district where we are seeing Publix, where we're seeing Chick-fil-A, where we're seeing Starbucks, where we're seeing a new residential development that's going to be coming, and we just approved that at the last meeting. So all of those things is done because Georgia Southern has an individual at the helm that understand that the destiny of Georgia Southern University and the destiny of Statesboro are intertwined at every level. And that's what I can say about that.
So just to kind of finish,
Okay.
let's talk about that destiny. What is your vision for Statesboro in the next 5 to 10 years? What do you see for us?
My vision has not changed. From day one, I said I wanted our city to be a thriving economic hub that focuses on being inclusive. And that has not changed. And what we've seen since day one is that we've seen economically that our city has grown. We've seen gains in areas that we didn't think that we were going to see gains in. And we've done things to be more inclusive than what we have ever done in the history of this city. And I want to say this right here. In our city's brilliance, right, there was one thing that our city's history got wrong. And that was for nearly 200 years, the city of Statesboro never had any women to serve as council members. We got that wrong. With these women coming on board with the council, they bring not just a levity with their presence, but they bring a sharpness and an insight that our all-male council was not able to get. And what you see is that from the time that those ladies stepped on board till this day, this city has been doing nothing but skyrocketing up. When I talk about the neighborhood revitalization, when we talk about the parks, when we talk about public transportation, when we talk about the investment into youth, when we're talking about making sure that our city is greener and we're protecting our older trees and planting newer trees, all of these things are things that our ladies are passionate about. They came with vision, they came with purpose. And that is what I am excited about. And what I want to say is that moving forward, there should never be a day ever again where this city does not have any form of diversity, whether it's race or gender, on our council. Because the more diversity, the more voices that's diverse that we have in our governing process, the better this city is. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Blake, for this great conversation, and thank you all for listening.
Thank you. I'm going to get me a sip of water now. Yeah. Mr. Penny, what,
Let's give them another round of applause.
do I need to come back here?
You are standing right here. Get them to come up. Okay. At this time, we have some exciting things that have happened in our community, and the mayor just wanted to use this evening to recognize some people in our community that have been making things happen.
Yes.
And in particular, for the past, I'm going to say for 4 years, but it actually goes back 5 years.
Yes.
Some people in our community have been very involved and instrumental in making sure that children have good Christmases.
Yeah.
And so for the last 4 years, we've been doing Home for the Holidays tour drive. And so tonight, we wanted to recognize those entities and organizations that have been a part of that effort. And this past year, we were able to serve over 200 children with toys and gift cards so they could get clothes, and we were able to raise $7,500 from businesses in this community to make sure that children had great Christmases in our community. So tonight, we wanted to call on those individual organizations to come forward. I do just want to mention one that came in as a contributing member, and it's called Share Health. And they provided hand sanitizer that we put in all the boxes. But most of the folks are part of Divine Nine or the part of the Masons. And so at this time, we'd like for representatives to come up and we'll call them out.
You got it?
I got it.
Okay.
And so if representatives will make their way down, the recognition reads as such: City of Statesboro Certificate of Appreciation is hereby presented to Beta Gamma Gamma Foundation in recognition and appreciation for your participation in the 2023 Home for the Holidays toy drive. The City of Statesboro extends heartfelt gratitude for your kindness and compassion, which has significantly impacted the lives of families and children in our community. Signed, Jonathan McCollar. Brother, would you come forward?
Okay. You want them to stand across here?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's the foundation arm, but also Beta Gamma Gamma chapter of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated was partner in this effort as well.
All right. Here you go. You want to come stand across there? You doing good? All right.
All the certificates read the same: the Statesboro Uplift Foundation Incorporated. Then the Lambda Pi Sigma chapter of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated.
How you doing? You doing good? Okay. Here we go.
We're going to get the ladies to come where we have somebody stand.
Okay.
The Chi Pi Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated.
You doing good? Yeah. Congratulations.
Restoring the Breach Incorporated.
You doing good?
You have your mic on.
Where's Robert? Robert, if you can hear me, you can turn my mic off.
Then the Statesboro Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. I don't know why you have to go across there. The Truthful Lodge, number 375, Portal, Georgia. And last but certainly not least, the Xi Mu Nu chapter of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. Everybody's So again, these folks are responsible and they lead the effort. And all we would simply say to you, feel free to join us in this effort. This marks the 4th year, but we're always looking to expand this. More and more children need more things. And so we invite you to be a part of this effort. Let's give them another round of applause. And then the mayor has another final
Okay, and I'm gonna step up here.
recognition.
This is, and I'm gonna ask, I see my Sandlot buddy back there. What's going on, Chris? You all right? All right. I want the family of Sister Carrie Howard to come forward. It's right here. How you doing? You doing good? Now I'm for an act of transparency. Them two guys right there, why I don't play football. They taught me in the yard that that's for other people. But I want to say this evening. This is an award that's long overdue. Miss Carrie Howard, if you don't know that name in Statesboro, I'm gonna have to question how long have you been here. Miss Howard has been a warrior for the Whitesville community and for the people of the city of Statesboro for decades. She was an individual that when you sat down and you talked to her, she was clearly ahead of the curve for her time. In her time, she understood the importance of not just representing the Whitesville community, but she was having conversations about the environment. She was having conversations in and around the importance of why Whitesville did not need to be disenfranchised. And what I want to say to the family is this: thank you for sharing her with us. She has been an individual that we've modeled ourselves after. And when I say we modeled ourselves and we show up door to door, That was her. And she worked to make sure that whatever space she was in, she spoke truth to power. And nobody knows when you're going to get called home. And she was called home at the young age of 90 years old. And what she's done in her lifetime, this city, this community is in a great debt for her, because she did not do it for the accolades. She did not do it for the pats on the back. She did it because she loved the people. And earlier what I said was this: you cannot lead a people that you do not love. Because when you step into the role of leadership, you open yourself up to criticism, and sometimes you find yourself fighting those that you're fighting for, and as well as the ones that you're fighting against. But she had the heart of a lion, and she did not back down. It did not matter what space that she was in. She carried that light everywhere she went. And she was a person that sought knowledge. She wanted to sit down and understand whatever the new issues are and how do you address those. And so what I want to say tonight to this family, on behalf of the entire city, thank you for sharing her with us. And so tonight, Statesboro, we want to present the highest honor that this city offers, and that is the Medal of Honor. And it reads as follows: the city of Statesboro bestows its Medal of Honor to Carrie Howard for her lifelong service to our beloved community. Again, on behalf of the entire city of Statesboro, we want to say thank you, thank you, thank you.
Good evening. I accept this honor on behalf of the spirit of Carrie Howard. As the mayor said, she just had a heart for people. She had a heart for her community. And she was one that always stood for right and for the rights of people. And as the mayor said, she never backed down. She stood. A little short lady, 4 feet tall, but she just had a giant heart and a heart for the people. And everything she did, it was for the betterment of people and for her community. And I graciously accept this honor on her behalf.
Mr. Penn.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor, for fact-filled night, good information, great things going on in Statesboro. Thank you to the honorees, and I did have the pleasure of meeting Ms. Howard. Yes. And she was tough. So we thank her for her spirit and her guidance. And we thank Statesboro for coming out and supporting this effort this evening. At this time, the mayor, members of the council, we now invite you to join them for refreshments in the main art gallery. Thank you and good night.